Alrighty guys, so we're going to get into raycasting. This is a much better way of going about checking for collisions, especially with jump code. So first and foremost, what we're going to do, you can put this in your character controller, your player controller here, but I kind of like keeping things a little bit cleaner, like keeping things a little bit partitioned out. It's something that you'll notice just in my opinion makes things easier. So I went ahead and made a jump raycasting script. Okay, so this is just it's called jump raycasting, and it's going to take care of all of our raycasting needs. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that up, and we'll get into it, and I'll start explaining what we got going on here. I'm actually gonna delete start, and we're gonna walk step by step through this. Um, First thing I would want you guys to do is, like I said, delete start and go ahead and make an update function because a raycast. You know what? Actually, let me backtrack and talk about what is a raycast. You could think of a raycast. Unity's documentation even uses the example as like a laser beam going straight down from your position, or from the position you tell it to. This is and when it returns, when it hits something, it can tell you what it hit. You can make it only hit things on certain layers. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. So it's much more useful when you're and much more responsive than using, for example, on collision enter or on collision exit when you do jump stuff. So the first thing, ignore these variables up above for right now. We're going to do, I'll actually make this a normal variable. The first thing we need to do is check to see if, or get data on, did our raycast hit anything? You know, and that might seem kind of counterintuitive, right? Because you're like, hey, wait a minute, we didn't actually do a raycast yet. Why are we talking about if it hit anything before we even do it? Well, it's actually really simple to do a raycast. Really, this chunk right here, physics2d.raycast, is all you need to do. Now, obviously, you have to pass in some parameters here, and we're going to talk about them in just a second. But this will, every frame, because we're in update, send a raycast based off of the parameters we put in these parentheses. So what are these parameters? If I hover over raycast, I can see that it says, there we go, that I can pass it, I have to pass it in a vector2 origin, a direction, a distance, and a layer mask. Now, you don't necessarily need all of this. I believe if I do this, Raycast has a lot of overloads. So let me hit comma. We can see that you can use it in all kinds of different ways. And I'm not going to go into all of them, simply because I think that the way that we're using it here is a lot simpler than uh, 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 some of the other methods that you'll see. So obviously, if we're looking back at our example here, we're going to want the raycast to come from this character. And a really easy way to get that character's position is we can just get its transform dot position. It doesn't really matter the height, it doesn't really matter the x right now, but if we do transform position, that will get us exactly, oh, it's going to give me a bunch of errors in just a second because I deleted stuff. It'll give us exactly the center point of this little gizmo here. So if I go ahead and do that, transform dot position, that's going to say, hey, the origin of this raycast is going to start right there. Then we have to give it the direction. Now, this isn't telling it how far it's going to go. We're just going to say that vector2 dot down. So you could think of that as, if we were to write it out, 0 and -1 is the direction we want it to go to. So it's not going to go left and right. And it's not going to go up. It's only going to go down. Now, the next part, you will need to write these two variables in, and I'll explain them in just a minute. But distance is going to be a variable that we actually have to play with, and will be different for each of you depending on your character. The distance is how far should this raycast go? Um, and then the layer mask, which I've called jump mask, is actually a really cool variable type that Unity gives us that allows us to decide what physics layers will the uh, Raycast actually collide with. Now, don't get this confused with sorting layers when it comes to sprites. There's two different types of layers in Unity. Um, so you can actually ignore all of this right now. Actually, I would take that back. Go ahead and write this if statement. Um, don't worry about this debug.drawLine. I actually want to show you what it does without that before we get into it. But basically what's going to happen is a raycast hit essentially just comes back as true or false. True, did it hit something? Or false, you could think else if hit equals false here. It did not hit anything. And because we have this layer mask here, it will uh, 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 only hit things on the layers that we tell it to. Now you might be thinking, well, that means we have a little bit more setup, and that's absolutely right. So if we come back into Unity, we'll see that the default, we'll see that our distance is 0, our jump mask is nothing, and if we hit play, then we'll realize that it says we can't jump, which is not ideal, right? Now, if I were to go ahead and say set this to default, we would immediately start seeing can jump, but there's a problem here. Our distance is 0, so that means technically our raycast isn't even going down. We said that it needs to go down and it needs to go based off of distance, so down times 0. Well, then it's not going to go anywhere, right? It's just staying at the center. And that's because our player is also on the default layer. This is one of the reasons that we need this jump mask. So theoretically right now, the raycast is colliding with our player. If I were to go and click on our player and, I don't know, put it on the water layer, we'll start seeing it print can't jump again, right? Obviously, we don't want our player on the water layer, but I wanted to go ahead and get that point across. Now, if I start extending distance, we'll see eventually after I get to, the magic number, I can jump because it's colliding with the ground. Now, obviously the solution here is not put the player on the water layer. So I would suggest go and make a ground layer just by hitting this add layer button, make a layer named ground, and then let's go put our ground on the ground layer. Now, the last thing we would have to do, of course, is go ahead and put our jump mask to the ground layer. Now, if we hit play, we'll know that our player is obviously not on the water layer. It's still on default like we would want. I would generally also put it on a player layer, but, that's not necessary for right this minute. And if we go and expand distance, after we expand it a bit, we'll start seeing that we can jump. Now, this is really great, but the, we start getting, we can't actually see the raycast is what I'm trying to get at, which is a bit of a problem, right? This little guess and check, we can play it a little bit, we could nudge it a little bit, okay, we gotta nudge it a little bit up, but if you want to get it really exact, that's what this debug.drawLine is. Let me go ahead and close this out. Debug.drawLine will actually, let's actually zoom out a bit. And I know when I was testing this, I wanted to change this to 0.5. Debug.drawLine actually draws a line from your start position that you give it, the end position. You can tell it the color, and you can tell how long it's going to draw it. So obviously our raycast starts at the position of this game object, right? And then we are actually making a new vector 2 because we want it to start at the x, or to end at the same x, but we do not want it to end at the same y. What we're going to do is say, since we know we're going down, we're going to get the y position of our character and subtract the distance from it, because that's where our raycast should end, right? I usually just pick red because it's a little bit better. Color actually has quite a few. When I say better, I mean it's just easier for me to see. But there's red, white, black, magenta. Actually, magenta might be actually the easiest to see. And then this last number is just how long does it print this out? How long does it draw this line? Now, this won't actually be seen in your game view. This will be seen only in your scene view, I believe. Let's double check real quick. You can have it show up in your game view if you have the I guess you can't. Not the gizmos doesn't turn that on. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to change the distance. Shh. So you can see in my scene view that I get the line here drawing for me. If I turn on gizmos, let's check this one more time. Yes, you can see it in your game view if you turn on gizmos. Um, but this is a better way of saying, okay, hey, how close can I get? How pixel perfect can I get? You see, it is a little bit laggy because it does still draw for that 0.5 seconds. It might actually bring that down to uh, 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 um, 0.05 seconds, just so it's a little bit snappier. But if we want to get real pixel perfect, bam, there we go. That looks pretty good to me. Now, I would obviously need to copy this because we're in play mode and put it in here now. But this allows us to get the return that we can jump. Now, our jump code's pretty simple, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a public boolean here that says can jump. And instead of, no, I'll keep the debug log, but I'm going to put can jump equals true and can jump equals false. Now, from here, I could go into my player health, or I'm sorry, my player controller. And if I wanted to do it here, I would simply make just like how we did the player health tracker, I'm going to make a public jump raycasting instance. So that way then I can go and say jump raycasting instance equals get component jump raycasting. And actually with this, I'm going to make it private just because I don't need it to be public. I don't need to drag in. I could do the same thing with the player health tracker, but you know, I'm not going to go back and fix that right now, this minute. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the scene manager code that we had worked on in a different video and just say if jump raycasting instance dot can jump equals true. I'm going to have another boolean in here that says trigger jump. And we'll make it private as well. They might be like, hey, wait, why aren't we just doing something in here? Well, like we've said before, we should be changing the rigid body in fixed update. So we're going to go ahead and say if trigger jump equals true, then we'll do our jump. But we forgot up here to say if, or we'll compound this and say and trigger jump equals false, then we can say trigger jump equals true. Because obviously we don't want to jump multiple times, right? So if I say if trigger jump is true, then do our jump. Well, that would simply be rb2d.addForce. We're going to say that it could be, oh, I don't know, rb2d dot, or I'm sorry, vector2 dot up times jump force. Jump force we haven't made yet, so let's go up here and do public float jump force. We'll make it int, actually. It's just cleaner that way. Just like we did with speed. Jump force times time dot delta time. And then, of course, we have to say trigger jump equals false. Now, this should ideally work. If we go ahead and hit play and let's go back, we should have a new couple sets of variables. Make jump force, I don't know, 10? We'll have to play with that number, of course, to check to see how it's cooking. But this should... Alright, so now I found what was missing from our jump code. There was one small error. We simply need to add a comma and go add force mode 2d.impulse at the end. This allows you to um, this changes how the ad force is actually applied to the rigid body, and will make it so that you actually get to jump. Now, there are obviously some things that we can tweak around up here. We can go ahead and make the change the drag of our character so that we get a little bit of a different feel. This is where you really need to start playing with the different physics parts to see what feels good for your game. And sorry about Vala in the background. But that should be about it, everybody. Please be sure to ask any questions or leave comments or shoot me a message in Discord if you have anything that you need help with.